I would like to thank everyone for being here today, and special thanks for Congressman Seth for this great opportunity. I'm very excited to be here to talk about my experience when I was in the Army. I served as translator for the U.S. Army Military Police 95 Battalion, the 54 and the 340 MPs companies, especially from 2008 to 2009. And I was part of the Iraqi Operation Freedom from the very beginning of 2003. I also volunteered to help the Marines translate, write down words so they can display that display to my people and let my people know, because there is a huge misunderstanding in communication. That's one of the big reasons pushed me to step up and help. Aside from my daily work, going out on missions every day, helping Iraqi police with training, I was part of the special unit from American police officers. They were a fantastic job training Iraqi police officers to become well-working professional and to be able to help themselves and our families and the country. And as we mentioned, families, and we are great, is very important to us. I want to say that my family is a huge support of the mission in Iraq and the U.S. Army in America. My brother also served as a translator for the U.S. Army, the 101 Airborne and the 1st Infantry from 2009 to 2010. He survived by miracle from death after he gets shot in the first line duty twice by the militia. One bullet damaged his face and his face nerves, and the other is his arm. My uncle lost his life after he'd been kidnapped and shot on the head. He was also translator for the U.S. Army from 2006 to 2007 when he died. I personally received a letter in 2009 from the militia with a bullet saying, "Your judgment date is coming, and this is for your heart." And with help from my good friend, Sergeant Peter Farley, who was in my squad 2009 and 8, he started contacting people, asking for help, and finally I left the country. I owe him my life for everything he did to me and helped me stay on my feet today. I just talked to my dad this week. He said he wished he attended this event. But unfortunately, the system failed us. My family is supposed to be here in the U.S. After they finish and pass all the security and medical tests in August of this year. They receive a phone call from the immigration telling them they should get ready to leave the country in August of this year at 8 a.m. But they get another call from the same immigration representative saying that the U.S. government replaced them on the security check again with no idea why, after they've been told they were ready to leave the country the day before. Not to mention that my family have sold everything they have, house, car, furniture, everything, hoping they will be coming here and join me. My family has been in the process to come over here since 2010. That's how our system works, that with the good people, and that's how we've been treated. And especially with this new elections and new presidents, I'm really scared for my family and for my own safety. Again, thank you so much for having me here. God bless America.
We go to Afghanistan to know that at the end of our tour, whether it's 6 months or a year or longer, we come home to our families. And we have the privilege of knowing that our families are safe at home the entire time we serve. The translators in Afghanistan do not have that privilege, and many times it's quite the opposite. You see, when we go to an area, the deployed to the southeastern border of Afghanistan. It's right next to Pakistan. It's a hotbed for Taliban activity. We picked translators from those areas specifically. There's many different ethnicities, there's many different languages in Afghanistan. And the translator does not just translate. He goes on a mission with you and he tells you things that you would not notice, cultural nuances that they can pick up on that might save your life. So when we pick translators in Afghanistan, they often come from areas that are Taliban hotbeds, and their families often remain in those areas for the entire time they serve with us. So when I deployed in Afghanistan in 2014, the president had just announced that we were withdrawing all troops. And all of the units who had been working with their translators were in a rush to submit visas to the consulate in Kabul to try and get the translators in the US. And the consulate just shut down because they said it's too much, we can't handle it. We don't have the time to do investigations on all of them. Now, I was there as a counterintelligence officer, and my mission was to make sure, as my CO told me, he said, Andy, your job is to make sure we don't get shot in the back by any of the people we work with. Green and blue, we called it. So I spent a lot of time talking with our translators. And when they saw us packing up, because we thought we're leaving, they came to me and they said, where do I go? What do I do? I can't go back home. Taliban knows I've been working for the US for the last 10 years. You know, half of what you pay me I have to send to my family to pay off the Taliban because they know I'm here. And if I don't pay them, they'll threaten to kill my family. So what do I do when you close this base? I don't have another job to go to. And when you go to San Diego Coronado, and you go to the subway across the base, and you talk to people who are making your sandwiches, and you ask them where they're from, they'll say Iraq or Afghanistan, and they're ones of the few that made it over. And many of their families, their siblings, are still in Afghanistan. And the reason I'm telling you the story is because I want you to retell that story. When you hear someone say, you know, you're afraid of Muslims in this country, or you're afraid of what might happen, I want you to tell them the story of the translators in Afghanistan who risked so much more than we did when we went over there. They risked not only their own lives, they risked the lives of their families. And just to quickly wrap it up, we were lucky that when they came to us and asked us, what do we do now? We managed to find them other employment. As the counterintelligence officer, my job was to screen them, and my job was to make sure that make a recommendation whether they should stay or whether they should be sent off base and not be allowed in any other US bases. And private contractors that went to Afghanistan had a real hard time because they had to have their Afghan employees screened every year. They lived among us. They stood the outer perimeter gate watch. US forces stood the second perimeter because when an IED hits or a vehicle bomb, it's the outer perimeter gets hit first. So a small team of 30 people spent a month going through 250 people to update their clearance to try and get them a job on another US base, which I realized that meant that other people probably didn't get a job, but we felt very obligated to those that had risked their life for us. The base I worked on, it had special forces and special operations, Army and Navy special units. And at the time, the translators were not officially allowed to carry weapons into combat. And at one point I saw the master sergeant for the SF unit, they were about to go on mission, and he was carrying 2 M4s, and I said, what are you doing with that other M4? And he's like, I'll give that to Ali once we get off base. That's how much trust they had in their translators, that they would have their back. And many of them felt, many of the US service members felt, had a hard time reconciling the fact that they were not able to help their translators get back to the US. So I'm telling you this story, and I hope you consider your civic duty that if you are in a restaurant and you overhear someone talk about their fear of Muslims, just say, excuse me, I just overheard your comment, and I want to tell you a story that I was recently told to by a veteran that returned from Afghanistan at the end of 2014, and I hope that you'll share that. Thank you for your time.